251, and there's the SBL. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have another awesome review for you, and it is the SBL by Gavin Fuzzy. And I've had this blaster for quite a while. I think got this blaster right after I stopped doing YouTube videos. I had every intention of doing a review way back then, but hey, better late than never. I'm finally getting around to it, and this blaster is one of my favorites, and definitely one of my favorite 3D printed blasters. So stays real close to what we reviewed last week, the Harrier, in my gun bag here. I guess that's technically what it is, but works well for Nerf blasters. I really like this because it can hold two of them, and it holds a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, obviously I got mags on both of these, but you got lots of pockets. I'll put a link to this down in the description box if you're interested, but figured I'd show you guys how I carry my blasters, because I do think it's important to keep them, you know, protected. But there you can go. There's the Harrier, and there's the SBL. So go ahead and take that thing out of there. I mean, this is, I think, not the smallest version of this bag, but they have different sizes and whatnot. So if you're interested, definitely check the description box. But I really like you can put patches on the front. There's a lot of places to hold stuff. Really like that bag a lot. But let's talk about the SBL, because that's what you guys are here for. So Gavin did this quite a while ago. And I think I actually know he's working on a second version of this, and he's got some beta ones out right now. And I'll definitely look forward to grabbing one of those at some point probably, but I think it's a little different than this. Let's go over here and look at this a little closer. All right, so the SBL is in the top two 3D printed springers for me. I basically use this and a Lynx. And the Lynx is a very different kind of springer than this, in my opinion. But they both serve a purpose, and they're both awesome blasters. I did a Lynx review way back when it came out, and this came out shortly thereafter, and this was impressive. This was a big upgrade to me over my Talon Claw and things that are in that same elk, you know, caliber, whatnot. I thought that this was a vast improvement on that. It is a very solid 3D printed blaster. I mean, it uses hardware in it that's very different than you've seen in other blasters like the Talon Claw or the Caliburn or even the Lynx. But yeah, this is solid. There is no twist, there's no give. Now, I did print this myself. I bought the hardware and I built this myself, and I got basically all the upgrades you could get back then and still now, I believe. I don't think there's anything else that I don't have with this. The only thing that I didn't get was a 3D printed stock and the stock bars. I think you get the bars now, and you get a file you can print this, but I already had one and it was going to go with the color scheme I went with, so you know, I haven't changed that, but I could change that if I want to. I didn't get the bars though, and I think these are glued in, so that would be difficult, but nevertheless, I'm sure I could get that if I wanted to. But that does come with the kit now, so that's pretty cool. So you can match your stock with your color of the blaster. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The blaster is very well constructed, and that is why I love it so much. It is just as solid as my Harrier, in my opinion. Now, it's probably not as durable to like a fall, because I actually have done that with this blaster, and it survived pretty well, although the scar broke and my magwell broke, but it hit in a bad spot. It's 3D printed. That stuff's gonna happen. Fortunately, I wanted to reprint my magwell anyways because there was an updated version, so I did that. And this scar, I didn't even string. This is a string scar. I printed one so I could show you guys, but I like using a bearing scar now. We've kind of gone to that now since when he originally designed this blaster, but it is cool that he made a scar for it. He also made a foregrip for it, and you know, you basically get the works with this blaster. As far as upgrades, I have the Delrin CNC'd plunger and sear, a metal spring rest, and a metal ram and pusher, which is a skinny pusher, so you can load your magazine in and out without having to prime your blaster, which is awesome. I mean, we've obviously been going to that pretty much 100% on all springers now, which is definitely a plus to me. And these are not part of the blaster, but you probably are curious. These are Rhino flip-up sights, and I got those from e-Vike, which they're a little expensive, but they are definitely my favorite flip-up sights. And if you're interested in those, that's where you can find them. I also got a spring that is, I think is 225 spring now, but it was a test spring that I got, and it actually hits closer to 250, I do believe. But we'll put that to the test. But there's actually a lot of springs that you can use in this blaster, which I really like, and you can tune it really well. It's one of the things I really love about this blaster is I can tune it to a wide variety of FPSs, which is something you can do with the Harrier, but you have to buy springs from Worker. This uses like K25 and things size like that, so there's a lot of options already out there that you can use with this blaster. You may have to cut down some things because I've used some like 10 kg long shot springs that are the thinner ones, but I've had to cut them down to get them to catch and things like that. But there's a lot of options with this, and I think that's pretty cool. And I'll test some of those out today. Let's go over the features of this blaster. I've kind of gone over some already, but yeah, this thing has a full Picatinny rail on top. He did design this in a way that's a little interesting to me with a slope, which makes it print really nice, and you don't have to use support with it for the ones that you print standing up. That's the one thing I really don't care for though, is how it's different. Like some of them are sloped, some of them are straight, some of them slope, you know. It's kind of weird, but that's pretty minor thing there. But it doesn't seem to affect you using any Picatinny, attachments or anything like that from what I've been able to tell. You have a very tactical looking blaster, obviously. You have an M-LOK styling on the front here, which is not actual M-LOK. It's just for looks, I would say. It's not functional. You have the priming bars going right behind there, so you couldn't actually use that. But we have Picatinny rail and so you can use any sort of foregrip that attaches to Picatinny. I prefer this one, but like I said, he gives you a file to print an AFG, which is pretty nice. And then obviously you can use any sort of grip pretty much on this, and I feel like most work on this, unlike the Harrier. So that's an advantage, in my opinion, to this over the Harrier also. So when you order your blaster or you print your blaster yourself, you have the option of printing a full-length magwell or a half-length magwell. Now, I would recommend the half-length magwell because I don't really see a purpose of using a blaster like this with full lengths, and I don't think it'd be super effective, but it is an option, I do believe. I have the half-length version here, and this is actually compatible with both Talons and Katanas, although most people don't use Katana magazines anymore, but it does work with Katana magazines, so it's an option if you still use Katanas. You also have the ability to have this stock, like I was talking about before, or you can change this out for a buffer tube stock. So it's pretty cool. You have both options there. So if you don't like this version of a stock, you can use a buffer tube stock. So that's pretty sweet. It also has an interesting mag release that you can push down on or push forward on like you normally would. I don't really find this something that I would use. It's an awkward motion for my finger, but this is just fine for me. Go ahead and throw a mag in here and show you how that works. So you can push down like that. It is not a gravity drop magwell, or you can push forward and then pull out. So there you go, pretty sweet. Other than that, you guys, the grip is really nice and comfortable. I do like the molding in it and the lines and stuff. It's a nice grip. So you have some pretty awesome hardware in here, like I was talking about before. You have these metal bolts that run throughout the blaster. This is an extra one I got, but this is what your prime will ride along, and they use brass bushings, I believe they are, or copper bushings, I'm not sure, and they ride along this, so it's a pretty darn smooth prime. But this is what holds the blaster together so tightly and solidly, so gives it a lot of strength. So spring swaps are pretty easy in my opinion. You just have to take apart those 3 bolts there and then you can get your spring out and change them out pretty easily. So I have a K25 in here right now. I think it's hitting around 225 or so. I'm not sure how my seal is at this point. I feel like we could give this thing a little bit, it usually has a really good seal, but so it's leaking a little bit. I probably could lube that up and give it a little maintenance, but yeah, it's definitely has a solid seal if you maintain your blasters. I haven't done anything with this in several months, but maybe I'll lube that up when we change out a spring, and then we can see what this does. So let's go ahead and put some shots over the chronograph with some different power springs and see what this thing can do. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put some shots over the chronograph. I'm gonna put the B-scar or bearing scar on, B-car, whatever they're calling these. A bearing scar is what I like to call it because I think it sounds strange anyway else, but nevertheless, this is one I found off of Thingiverse. I think it's called, this is designed by Chance, and this one's a pretty interesting design. I like it because it gives you the option to print the angle of your scar, whatever you want, you know, so you can set up your bearings. So this is a 9 degree, but you can do pretty much any degree you could think of between 5 and 15, I think. I think they have all options, and then it locks onto the barrel pretty well. So we'll try to get this on here and go ahead and take some shots over the chronograph. All right, standard worker darts, Gen 3. We'll see what we get here. This is the high-powered spring, I do believe. I think this is the 250, or I think he calls it the 225 spring plus, but I think it's closer to 245 or so. So we'll see how it does. Well, that's wrong. Oh, meters per second would not be helpful today. Let's do feet per second. 227, oh, all right. 247, that's more expected. 242. 244. 251. 243. One more. 253. So yeah, besides that first one, everything seemed to be in that 240 to 250 plus range. So pretty good spring for that top end 5v5, you know, Foam Pro Tour cap. It's pretty nice, but it's not a hard prime, but some people might want to go faster. So even tuning this down to like 230, it's still very effective. I ran it at that this past End War, and I really liked it. But we'll go ahead and put in the K25 now, which should give you around that 225 range, and see how that does. All right, so before I change out the spring, I'm actually going to take some shots down the range here and see how it does, you know, just so you can see it fly. See how accurate this bearing scar is, at least from what I can tell with my eyes. That one wasn't very accurate. Might have been, that one wasn't very accurate. All right. That one's pretty good. I don't know, more testing with the bearing scar. Some of those flew a little crazy. I'm not sure if they were older darts or what, but nevertheless, those ranges were very impressive. And yeah, that was probably over 100 feet at least. I'm not sure, definitely over 100 feet. All right, we got the Silver Fox K25 in here now. So this should be a little lighter spring. It's definitely a little lighter prime, and we'll see how it does. 225, 228, 236, 236, 231, 229, 225. Pretty consistent. That's the thing about this blaster. It is consistent, and it doesn't seem to matter what spring I put in it to a certain extent anyway. So anyway, from 200 to 225 is where I play at mostly, and that's where I run this blaster at, and it seems to be very consistent, so I really like that about it. All right, so I think this is the 200 FPS spring. I think this is a cut down 8 kilogram long shot spring, but I'm not sure about that. But I think that's what this is. Maybe I believe it was a turf spring. Had to kind of customize stuff to try to figure out how to get this down to 200 FPS for my local wars. And I'm trying to figure out which spring that is because I did not take the right spring this week to my war. But nevertheless, hopefully this is the guy. We'll find out right now. .207, 197, 190, 208, 211, 193, 183. That seemed off. I won't disregard that one. I think I might have not gotten the correct alignment over the chronograph there. 195. So maybe a little more inconsistent down at that lower FPS, just under 200 FPS. I would say that's definitely a good, I mean, for our wars, that's definitely a good spring to use right there, just under or maybe just above 200 FPS. It's not a hard cap, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, this is a very tunable blaster, in my opinion, between 200 and 250. I don't think it should go much lower than 200 unless you want to change out the barrel length. But nevertheless, this is a great blaster. Gavin did an awesome job with this. The design is pretty darn flawless. There's only a few things I would change, and I'm excited to see what his V2 is. I think it's a little more compact, so that'd be cool to see. I don't know if it's supposed to shoot lower FPS. I really don't know that much about it, but Gavin has been doing awesome work for a very long time. I think one of the very first reviews I did was his 7-shot hammer shot cylinder way long ago. Man, I'm dating myself, but yeah, that was I think kind of his first big thing he did, and he's doing all kinds of awesome stuff now. I mean, with the SPAMF but fast, this is the SPAMF but long, if you didn't realize what the SBL stands for, and then he's got another version of this coming out, like I said. So definitely stay tuned for more stuff. And if you want to check out Gavin Fuzzy and you want to try to pick one of these up, I'll leave a link to his Etsy down below where you could buy a hardware kit. You can also get this from Silver Fox Industries. I believe you can get it pre-built from them and the hardware kit, but I'm not positive about that. I'll have to do some checking. Probably should have checked that out before I started the review, but this blaster is awesome, guys. And if it's something that you think you would use, I highly recommend it. It's a very fun build, so I do recommend building your own if you can. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. And as always, guys, peace out.